So we all know the Joker, right? Jack Napier was a highly intelligent young man who was born and raised in the country before moving to Gotham City in hopes of becoming a stand-up comedian. Due to having a poor sense of humor and Gotham not being accepting of his form of comedy, due to it being a cesspool of crime, Jack bombed and was forced to take up crime to pay the bills. Jack's robberies were supposedly non-violent, at least according to him. But one of them ended by unknown circumstances with him falling into acid, which bleached his skin white, dyed his hair green, left him with one green eye and the other purple, along with a chemical imbalance in his brain, which led to insanity, becoming the Joker. Deemed a supercriminal, the Joker was eventually sent away to a new institution called Arkham Asylum, which was originally a historic Gotham colonial fortress called Old Fort Arkham, but was transformed into an institute for supervillains and the criminally insane. Although they often broke out to wreak havoc on Gotham and come into conflict with the Batman, who Joker in particular was obsessed with. Batman! As if in a dream only one man can know. He tastes the dirt of the alley he crawls through, the filth it mixing with the hot taste of his own blood and the cold taste of his own defeat. Laughter, mad and maniacal, peals from the dark brick walls, diminishing even the heaven's thunder and the white noise hiss of the night storm's downpour. In this place, at this time, the Batman's reign is ending, and the Joker laughs. Like a dying animal propelled by instinct unknowing of reality, Batman drags himself across the rain-slicked paving stones of the nameless Park Row alley. His trembling fingers search for gaps between the stones. His breath coalesces in small, pale clouds smeared by rain. His failing muscles contract and he pulls himself forward another few inches. Another few useless inches. For in this place at this time he has nowhere left to hide. The laughter is like bullets. Batman hears footsteps behind him, splashing, sprightly like a dancer in the rain. He recognizes their childlike rhythm. Joker skips toward their final confrontation. Batman rolls against the soaking ground. There's a dull metallic clink as his bullet-pocked emblem slips from his chest plate to fall into a puddle of mud and garbage, lost forever. The bat is eclipsed. Batman heaves himself against a formless mass of rain-decayed debris. The Joker stands before him, long face curtained by a sheet of rain that falls from the wide brim of his hat. But clearly through that curtain, blood-red lips curl in glee and wild eyes glow with madness fueled by genius beyond measure. "Caped Crusader," the Joker sings. His laughter is hysterical. Batman wills his battered arm to obey him, sends it to the belt, 5th compartment, 2nd layer, feels for a familiar shape. But the batarangs are gone, expended uselessly an hour ago as the rain began to pour. His hand fumbles to the 3rd compartment, 1st layer, but the ampules are exhausted. All the compartments, all the layers, all are empty. Everything used up except for the binary chemicals in his hollowed heels. But his broken legs lie unmoving, and his last remaining weapons are forever out of reach. The Joker steps closer, kicking playfully at a puddle. "World's greatest detective." He sniggers as if it were a punchline to the greatest joke in the world. He raises his arm. Batman narrows his eyes against the rain that streams across his cowl, forcing himself to focus on Joker's hand, but he sees nothing with eyes still blurred by the beating he has endured. "Dark Knight!" The Joker screams, his hand lifts higher, a maestro's command for his final crescendo. A volley of lightning streaks down in answer to the night's new ruler, and the monstrous arcs strobe over the valley. In the flashes, Batman sees others standing where the shadows had hidden them. But his technology is spent, his body has betrayed him, he is helpless. The Joker leans forward, chortling with delight. "Stupid little boy." It is the final insult, the ultimate joke. The Batman revealed as he always feared he would be. Batman's lips tremble with cold, with shock, with loss beyond anything he has felt before. He cannot form the words he needs to say, the apology he must make for the failure his life has been. The others in the shadows point at him and stare. The Joker laughs again. And he brings his other hand up to clap against the raised one. Purple gloves meeting with a thunder of their own. "Hit it, boys!" he merrily commands, and the lightning fades before the onslaught of the searchlights that burst into life atop the surrounding buildings. The tableau is fixed, the mask of night removed from the Batman's defeat. The sudden brilliance brings physical pain. Batman hears the whir of motor-driven cameras and sees the light-forged outlines of television camera crews moving forward in the rain. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press, Draxtor Dupre!" the Joker intones, then breaks into mindless giggles. "You may wonder why I've asked you here today." The Batman senses the madman moving to stand at his side but can do nothing. Then suddenly he knows what the Joker plans to do. Everything else was nothing compared to the final defeat that faces him now. "What the Joker promises," the Joker announces. He bends down beside the fallen man in black. Batman feels cold, clothed fingers on his face. At first they're gentle, almost a parting caress. Then they are an unrelenting pressure, pushing hard against his bloodied cheek, and deep beneath his cowl, "The Joker delivers!" The cowl separates from the Batman's face, pulling, cutting, ripping skin, lifting away, crushed in a purple fist. Batman's cry of rage and pain of loss is incomprehensible. The cameras whir. "Look on my works, ye mighty!" the Joker shrieks as the dark cowl bursts asunder in the light. "And despair!" The reporters gasp as they peer beneath the Batman's mask, and at last see that Batman is revealed as... Batman's waking scream of anguish echoes in the dark shadows of his lair. He's drenched in sweat. His body trembles. No sleep for 10 days. Because of the nightmares. Because of the Joker. Further sleep is impossible this night, and Batman knows he approaches the threshold where even his superbly trained body will exhibit sleep deprivation deficiencies. He arises and cloaks himself in cowl and costume. This time the Joker's science is beyond him, and he has only one chance to free himself from the effects of the Joker's latest weapon. He must return to where it began. He must return to where the answer may yet lie. He imagines the Joker's laughter in his lair, and it chills him. The Batman must return to Arkham. Hello, Fairy. Hello, Crash. Sunlight filters in through the wind-tossed leaves of ivy crowded too closely around the leaded glass window of the chief psychiatrist's office. Dr. Bartholomew seems not to notice. The grounds of Arkham Asylum are always rich and dense and overgrown, never in control. The grounds of Arkham Asylum are like its inmates. The psychiatrist studies the chart spread over his desk. A man cloaked in black waits in the corner of the office. Beyond the window, shaft of sunlight wrapped in his webbed cape, protected by his mask. There is impatience in his stillness. Bartholomew looks up, adjusting his glasses. Twin round circles of glass turning white in the glare from the window. He is bald, pink, featureless, with pursed lips like cupids. His fingers tap a glass chromatograph printout. I've seen a compound something like this before. The Batman steps into the sunlight. His costume stays as dark as always, swallowing the light. The Joker's venom.
"Ah, yes,"
Bartholomew says. He smiles himself, nodding his head nervously.
"I've conducted autopsies on victims of that. Extraordinary chemical. Brilliant man, the Joker."
The Batman's silence encompasses the room.
"All things considered, of course,"
Bartholomew adds quickly. He looks back to his chart. "You know how the Joker venom works?" Batman asks.
"Oh, yes, the textbook explanation,"
Bartholomew says without looking up.
"Absorbed to the lung, carried by the bloodstream into the brain. Direct stimulation of the portions of the amygdala controlling emotional responses. In the case of Joker venom, the stimulation leads to an unrestrained feeling of good spirits, well-being, uncontrolled laughter as a sequela. Incredible knowledge of neurochemistry. Oh, quite impressive, the Joker."
Victims die of cardiac arrhythmia and suffocation. The Batman's voice is dark as his cape. Bartholomew stares up at him for a long time.
We all die, Mr. Batman. At least the Joker's victims die happy.
There's a sound of creaking leather as Batman closes his fists, considering his reply. How is this compound similar to the Joker venom? He asks at last, fists opening back into hands for the moment.
By this, you mean the compound to which you were exposed when you last fought the Joker?
Yes. Bartholomew leans back in his red leather-covered chair. The old wood complains. He takes off his glasses and rubs the bridge of his nose, gazing up at the age-darkened patterned plaster of the ceiling.
Yeah, according to my analysis, this new compound has the same general molecular structure as Joker venom, so I would assume it too would be absorbed into the bloodstream through the lungs and then be able to cross the blood-brain barrier.
To stimulate portions of my amygdala.
Yeah, exactly.
Bartholomew studies what little he can see of Batman's expression beneath the mask.
Have you had bouts of extreme and inappropriate emotional responses since your exposure to the compound?
Yes.
Care to provide details?
No. Bartholomew smiles a nervous tick.
General parameters, perhaps.
Disruptive dreams.
Nightmares?
They could be called that. Bartholomew leans forward, hunching over his desk, hands clasped together.
That a mind like his should be locked away here, and not turned loose at MIT or DARPA or...
The Batman looms over the desk. The shadow of his cowl falls across the little man.
The compound is stimulating other areas of the amygdala than those affected by Joker venom, Mr. Batman. The portions that control your reaction to senseless fear, to danger, to personal threats.
The things I fear, Dr. Bartholomew, are not senseless. They're precise and very specific. How could any compound trigger such exact stimuli? Bartholomew waves his hand, the fluttering of a frightened bird.
You don't understand, Mr. Batman. The Joker has gone far beyond our understanding of biochemistry and psychology. It is your brain that provides the details of your nightmares. What the Joker's compound does while you're asleep is trigger the release of enormous amounts of chemicals and hormones, just as if you had been badly frightened. Your sleeping mind, having to deal with this terrible feeling unleashed as the fear chemicals spread through your system, creates an extremely detailed dream of the things you fear most in order to explain, if you will, the feeling and its intensity.
Bartholomew smiles and holds it. His teeth are small, pearl-like, perfect.
You see, the genius of the Joker has made it possible for one compound to affect each person differently. Each individual to it, exposed to it, will experience his or her own worst nightmares.
He claps his hand in delight.
I must ask him if we write a paper together on it. Has he written other papers before? Do you know, Mr. Batman?
Will it wear off? Bartholomew grudgingly looks back at his charts. After a moment, he sighs.
Technically, yes. Practically, no.
Explain. The nervous smile appears again.
The compound should take about 6 months to be fully metabolized by your body.
So in 6 months, the nightmares will stop?
Oh, dear me. They'll stop sooner than that, Mr. Batman.
He holds his smile.
If you don't develop an antagonist for this compound within another 2 or 3 weeks, you'll die. Of exhaustion, insanity, whatever.
Bartholomew shakes his head as he folds up his chart.
Bloody genius, that Joker. How incredible.
The Batman's outspread hand descends to the doctor's desk, covering over the papers there. I want to see him. Bartholomew at last looks shocked. He answers in outrage.
Mr. Batman, you of all people should know it's impossible. Here at Arkham, our goal is to help our patients over their past troubles, to point them toward the future as fully functioning, well-adjusted citizens, able to...
Now! The black glove becomes a fist. Bartholomew stands, all 5 feet, 4 of him. He glares back at the eyes burning within the black mask.
As a psychiatrist, I cannot permit that. A confrontation with you could destroy everything Arkham has achieved with him in his long years of therapy.
Between his escapes, his crimes, his murders.
One must have hope, Mr. Batman.
I will see him.
No, you will not. I forbid it. And I can have an injunction drawn up to keep you away from him and away from Arkham.
Bartholomew straightens the charts on his desk, tapping them into perfect order.
Besides, he specifically asked that you not be allowed to bother him.
Because he knows, Batman says.
Knows what?
He knows that he's the only one who can help me. Bartholomew takes a clipboard from the side of his desk.
Perhaps you should have thought of that last week before you beat the poor man senseless and dragged him in here again. No wonder he's afraid of you.
The little man marches to an ornate wooden door.
Now, if you excuse me, Mr. Batman, I have my rounds.
Batman stands helplessly by the window, staring out at the setting sun, seeing darkness grow among the thick bushes and gardens and high stone walls. Arkham's darkness. Or is that Darkham's Arkness? Like its grounds, like its inmates, rich and dense and uncontrolled. Night is falling. The time of dreams. Batman makes the only decision he can.
You know, Harv, the Joker says, you're not half the man you used to be.
Deep in the ancient cellars of Arkham, the Joker's laughter echoes down the long, dark corridors. From one of the other high-security cells, something wails an answer. The other patient in the recreation lounge turns slowly away from the ceiling-mounted television. The half of the patient's face, not corroded by acid, smiles calmly. The other half, what little remains within it that is recognizably human, drools. The two-faced man reaches down the side of his leg and pulls out the slim, shining needle of a commissary spoon, filed to a deadly point. In one hand, he holds the weapon ready to strike. With his other hand, he expertly flips a silver dollar into the air and snatches it in flight. Then he studies the coin in his open palm. The half-smile goes away. Two-Face slips the weapon back into his sock, gets up and leaves the lounge. The Joker cackles.
Hey, Harv, he calls out the departing patient. I think you've flipped.
He chokes with laughter, pounding his hand against the side of his chair. And then he realizes he's alone. And yet, not alone.
Who's there?
The Joker asks the shadow in the hall outside the lounge. One shadow answers.
You're not supposed to be here, the Joker says happily. Yet.
Silently, the Batman closes the door to the corridor behind him. I need your help. Batman says the words as if you're spitting out poison. I want the antidote. The Joker slaps his hands on the balls of his cheek.
What? No buttering me up? No asking me about the wife and kids? Just give me the antidote? As if I mean nothing to you.
He wipes a single heartfelt tear from his eye.
And here I thought we had something special between us. A certain je ne sais quoi. How you say, a give and take relationship.
The Batman waits. The Joker holds two fingers to his lips to cover a giggle.
You know, I give you the antidote and you take me away from all of this.
There is no negotiation. The Joker shrugs, sits back down to watch the television.
Then there is no... Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy. He can't feel the next...
The Joker's feet dangle above the floor as Batman jerks him into the air by the collar of his Arkham-issued white shirt, but the white-faced man rolls his eyeballs back, sticks out his tongue, and hangs limply, offering no resistance. Batman heaves the man across the room. The Joker stretches out on the floor where he has landed and rests his head on his hand. Then he thrusts out his bottom lip.
What's the matter, Battykins? In the old days, you could have held me up like that a good 3 or 4 minutes without breaking into a sweat.
He narrows his eyes in concern.
Say, are you getting enough sleep?
Get up, Batman says.
You're not thinking too clearly. Bat pal, if you beat me silly, well, sillier. Then what are you going to do with me, eh? Take me away to Arkham? Nah, a tad redundant. You're going to kill me? Nah, What would the ACLU say? You going to torture me to reveal the secret of the antidote? Maybe slip toothpicks under my nails until I...
A black hypodermic needle glints as Batman fills it with a clear ampule from his belt. The Joker stands grinning.
Would it make a difference if I just said no?
The Batman snaps the hypo into the barrel of his gas pistol. The Joker carefully undoes the buttons of his institutional shirt, offering his pale chest as an easy target.
If I have an antidote to the nightmare compound, don't you think I also have an antidote to your truth compound? And don't you think I loaded myself with it because I knew you might try something like this?
Batman takes aim.
Go ahead, bat chump. All it'll do is put me to sleep for a day or two during which you won't sleep. And by the time I wake up, you can bet that pink-toed Bartholomew will have an injunction against you and have transferred me someplace you'll never find me. Not in the time you'll have left.
Batman hesitates. The Joker smiles. He lowers his voice, twitches his lips.
So what you gotta ask yourself, punk, is, do I feel lucky?
Batman lowers his pistol.
I wipe that silly frown off your face.
The Joker says as he slowly buttons his shirt again.
You get me out of here tonight, the antidote's all yours.
Batman holds his pistol uselessly at his side. He looks away, shakes his head to clear it. I can't help you escape. The Joker waves his hand.
Of course you can. It's easy. I do it all the time myself.
No, Batman says. The Joker checks his reflection in the television screen, rubs his hand through his hair until it all stands out in like a green cloud. He smiles at his perfection, turns away from the television.
Think of it this way. If you don't help me inside 2 weeks, you'll have your own cell here. Inside a month, you'll be dead. And then I'll escape anyway, but there won't be anyone who'll be able to bring me back.
He holds up a finger.
But if you get me out of here tonight, I'll give you the antidote, and things will be back to normal. Or abnormal in your case. I'll be free, like I'm going to be anyway, but you'll still be around to hunt me down and give my poor life some meaning in these dark and dangerous days.
Joker holds out his hand.
What do you say, BM? Is that a deal, or is that a deal?
Batman stares at the Joker's mad eyes. He breaks down his pistol and replaces it in his belt. The Joker waves his hand toward Batman.
Come on, shake on it.
Batman's hands stay at his side. The Joker reaches out to his own hand, rips it off from the wrist, and holds the stump up to Batman's face.
See? Nothing up my sleeve.
Batman snatches the fake hand from the Joker and hefts it in his own. Gas or explosive, he asks. The Joker smiles as he stretches his arm and pushes his real hand through the cuff of his shirt.
Remember who you're dealing here with, BM. Of course it's explosive. It's a hand grenade. I slay me. Pull out the thumb, count to 5, or is it 2? And then toss and run. That's the only way to smuggle things into Arkham, you know, by making them look like things that already belong here.
Batman disables the explosive hand, turns his back on the Joker, and goes to the door. He opens it silently and checks the hall beyond with a narrow sliver of mirror from his belt. Come here, he says, and the Joker goes to him. We do it my way, understand? No one gets killed, no one gets hurt.
Didn't anyone ever tell you that a thing worth doing is worth doing well?
The Joker protests.
I've got a reputation to maintain, and an Arkham breakout without a few gratuitous deaths will never make the 11 o'clock.
Batman's hand goes and tightens around the Joker's throat. Or we could both end it here and now, together. The Joker pats Batman's cheek, and for once he doesn't laugh.
You forget, Batman. Nothing ends in Arkham. Nothing.
Batman's cape moves with the beat of an immense batwing as it flows through the air and envelops the Joker in blackness. My way, Batman says again, and then the two of them, the Batman and the Joker, move out into the tunnels of Arkham, into the shadows where nothing ends, together. The moonlight and sudden night air in his face remind the Joker of birth. The swift flutter of Batman's cape as it withdraws fades to nothing, and the Joker stretches out his hand and arms to steady himself and finds he is on Arkham's south wall, 15 feet up, tottering on the rough-edged stones. Jump, says Batman, but the Joker cannot see him. Behind the Joker, the dark mass of Arkham is silhouetted against a night sky of low clouds faintly underlit by the distant glow of Gotham city lights. A perfect escape, the Joker says wistfully, without a single death. How amazing. How disappointing. Now. With a snicker, the Joker throws himself from the wall without knowing where or how he will land, or even if. But Batman catches him, saves him, lowers him gently to the ground. That's it, Batman says. The Joker turns away and brushes his hand against the ancient stones of Arkham's walls. He has never touched them from the outside. So quickly? My way, Batman says. I wish you'd let me see more of it. The power of Arkham resonates beneath the Joker's fingertips, calling him back. I wish you had seen less as it is. The Joker nods and takes his hand away from the wall. His smile widens. Perhaps that's our secret, he says, and turns back to Batman, a living shadow against the dark surrounding forest. Our secret? Batman asks. If we saw less, if we knew less, then we would not need to be what we are, don't you think? If we saw less, if we knew less, then we would be less. Of course, the Joker says. Of course, you're right. And he swings his fist at Batman's face. A fraction of a second too late, Batman blocks, and the Joker's blow contacts the top of his cowl. He flips backward, landing in a crouch, balancing on both feet in one hand. The other hand holds up a batarang. Dried leaves crackle beneath him as he shifts his weight. Behind him, the forest is dark and silent. Have you guessed? The Joker says, turning his body to provide the smallest target. Has it taken you this long? The subtle crunching of the leaves is silenced. You haven't. Really? There's no antidote, Batman asks. Right again, BM. For getting me out of Arkham, your reward is a few more weeks of sleepless nights and an end to dreaming. You know what happens when you prevent it from dreaming, BM? The batarang sings through the air. The Joker arches back and the weapon sparks against the stones of Arkham and buries itself in the ground. The dreams build up inside of you until they burst out while you're awake. He dives and rolls away as a second batarang slices the air above his head, dying against the stones. Only then, the Joker says as he comes back to his feet and clasps his hands together, they're called hallucinations, and because of my nightmare compound, there'll be hallucinations of the things that you fear most. He pulls his arms apart. Two hands move grotesquely with one wrist. Just like your dreams. He pulls a thumb from a second false hand. Batman's arm snaps down, a billow of smoke erupts at his feet as the Joker's second hand grenade flies at him. The Joker twists and dives away. The explosive hand detonates. The Joker hears the grunt of a man who has lost his breath. Just like your dreams! The Joker cries into the night. He pulls a button from his shirt, scrapes a nail across it, counts to 3, then tosses it into the air. The button flares with 4 seconds of magnesium light, long enough to see the stark outline of a man crawling away on the ground, seeking shelter beneath the trees. The Joker pounces. He feels the explosive huff of breath burst from Batman's lungs. Batman's arm comes back to drive an elbow into the Joker's side, but the counter move is slow, and the Joker's on his feet again without being touched. Slowly, the Batman rolls over. It's only been 10 days without sleep, BM, but already your reflexes are off. You let me jump on your back. You couldn't block my punch. You're decaying in front of me. The Joker laughs. Batman sits up, hands at his belt. The Joker flicks another flare button, an unstable chemical bursts into metal flame, and adheres to Batman's emblem. Batman's hand leaves his belt and swirls his cape around him as he rolls in the forest floor to extinguish the flame. But by the time the flare is spent, the Joker's foot has found Batman's head again and again and again. A final kick goes into the side of Batman's chest, just beneath the lip of his body armor. The Joker falls back, laughing with the memory of the satisfying give he had felt as a rib collapsed. Batman moans, face down in the dead leaves and dirt. The Joker sniggers as he catches his breath. What do you say, BM? You want to spend the last days of your life fighting hallucinations till you drop and die? Or would you rather end it here and now? The Joker pulls the rest of the buttons from his smuggled shirt, ignited in the proper positions, in the mouth, on the eyes. There are enough buttons to kill. Batman rolls over. Blood glistens out of his mouth, bubbling at the corner of his lips as he wheezes with each breath. The Joker drops to his knees at the Batman's side. He holds a fistful of flare buttons in his hand. Tell the truth. Have you always wanted to go out in a blaze of glory? Here and now, Batman asks. His voice is weak, confused.
That's the idea,
Joker says. He holds the buttons in the palm of his hand. No, Batman says. The Joker picks out the first button. He shrugs.
All good things.
Not here. Batman tries to get up. Can't make it. Falls on his side with a sigh, hand going to his side. Not now. The Joker scratches the surface of the button, begins his count.
Count to 2. Or is that 5?
The Batman's arm snaps up toward the overhanging trees. The Joker hears the hiss of a batarang, the twang of a silken rope, the creak of a tree branch. The button flares. The rope tightens on the suddenly stretched branch, and stretched branch straightens. Batman lifts up into the air, roaring in pain and defiance until he is upright, holding himself on his rope above the ground. His feet snap closed to the Joker's hands, the Joker's real hands. Wrapped by white skin, pressed in against the others resting there, the button flares. The Joker howls. Batman shouts in triumph as his protective boots push in on the Joker's flaming hands. The blinding white glow of the raging magnesium shoots out from between the charred fingers like a captured sun. Thin strands of glowing white smoke stream into the Joker's red-rimmed mouth as he takes in another desperate gasp of air to scream and scream. There's nothing to wake to. The chemical ignition is spent. The Joker twitches spasmodically. Batman releases his feet and drops to the ground, stumbling as the pain of his shattered rib burns through him. The Joker babbles deliriously on the floor of the forest. The ruined flesh of the bones of his hands are fused together. The skin of his hands is no longer white. Batman limps over to the stand above the Joker. He coughs out blood, but the injury is still not enough to stop him. Never.
You're wrong,
Batman says hoarsely.
It does end in Arkham. For you.
With one clenched hand against his side, Batman snaps his rope from the tree branch and ties the Joker's legs together. Then he drags the writhing man around the great stone walls of Arkham to the thick twisted iron bars of the main gate. The Joker screams as he is pulled across the hard ground, but not in pain. The gates swing open before the man. From the shadows and the gibbering burden he pulls. All the lights of Arkham blaze through its windows like eyes searching for something that has been missed. The Joker lies in the cold stones of Arkham's front plaza. Batman leans beside him. A black blade slices through the rope that binds the Joker's legs, but he cannot move. His hands are locked before him, beyond any sensation.
Nothing ends in Arkham,
the Joker gasps. His throat burns with the aftertaste of the smoke from his own charred flesh.
Nothing.
Batman's cowl becomes a sudden black shadow over the Joker as a searchlight hums into life on Arkham's roof. Then another and another until the mask of night is removed from the Joker's defeat. Batman steps back and lifts his head. The Joker squints through the blinding light and sees the outlines of others who have been waiting. One of them is the man with 2 faces. But they wait no longer.
It's time it ended,
Batman calls out to the watchers of Arkham. He looks down at Joker, and suddenly the Joker knows what Batman plans to do. Everything else was as nothing compared to the final defeat that faces him now.
Time to see who you really are. As you really are,
Batman says. He bends down, and his black gloves are like claws as he digs into the soft white folds of the Joker's flesh. He grabs at the outthrust cheeks, slips long fingers in the grimacing mouth, squeezes them like talons to get a good grip, a sure grip. The Joker is not laughing now, and the Batman pulls against the flesh and pulls against the blood until the watchers of Arkham gasp as they peer beneath the Joker's mask and at last see the Joker's revealed as... The Joker's waking scream of anguish echoed down the dark corridors of Arkham. The viewing panel on the door to his cell slipped open.
10 days,
Bartholomew said.
Been like this for 10 days.
The chief psychiatrist slipped off his black-framed glasses and he pushed his hand through his graying hair.
Ever since you brought him in.
Beside the doctor, Batman stepped up to the viewing panel. In the cell, the Joker flopped on the padded floor, arms firmly held against him by the straitjacket he wore. He cackled softly to himself. The words he said were unintelligible. A thin trickle of drool at the side of his gritting mouth fed a growing dark stain beneath him.
I finished my analysis of the chemical compound he had packaged in that shipment of sandbox sand.
Bartholomew whistled softly and looked at the costumed man beside him. They're almost the same height.
Yes, John Hopkins told us they'd need 2 more weeks to even finish the preliminary spectroscopy on that.
Batman didn't acknowledge the awe in the psychiatrist's voice. It's molecularly similar to the Joker venom. Bartholomew shuddered.
Hideous stuff, that.
Absorbed by the lungs, Batman continued. Crosses the blood-brain barrier, direct stimulation of the amygdala. Bartholomew nodded.
Yes, causing the victim's sleeping mind to create its worst nightmare. Oh, that Joker is a hideous, hideous creature.
The Joker sat up slowly in his cell, becoming aware of his audience at last. Exactly, Batman said. The children of Gotham wouldn't have had a chance if that sand had made it into the toy store distribution network.
Neither would you,
Bartholomew said, if the Joker hadn't inhaled that dose before he tried to use on you. The Joker pulled himself up on his cot and then stood. He seemed to make an effort to adjust his straitjacket. He wiped his spittle-covered chin on his shoulder. He was making himself look presentable.
Do you know what his prognosis is?
Bartholomew asked Batman. He held his pen ready to make a note on the Joker's chart. His system should metabolize the compound within 6 months, Batman said.
Yes.
Bartholomew snorted with surprise and slipped his glasses back on.
How unfortunate, because if the effects of that compound prevent him from dreaming much longer, I'm afraid he's going to be driven quite mad.
In his cell, the Joker began to laugh. Batman said nothing. Then the Joker shivered once and turned to stare at those who stared at him.
I wonder what it is, Bartholomew asked Batman. I wonder what a man like the Joker would fear most. He shook his head. I wonder what he dreams.
The Joker lurched toward the door of his cell, and Bartholomew stepped back.
Don't ask me, you baby-faced moron! The Joker cried. He bashed his head against the padded door. Ask him, the lunatic in the cape! He clenched his eyes shut. Come on, Bats. You know you don't know. You know, don't you? You know what I dream.
He howled in a staccato burst of laughter. But it wasn't funny. Bartholomew blinked at the Joker's outburst, then scribbled on the chart he held. Beside him, Batman's gloved hand reached up to the side of his cowl and pulled it down imperceptibly. It was an almost unconscious habit he had developed over the years, something he did just before he was going into action, making sure his mask was firmly in place, protective, concealing. Bartholomew stared into the Joker's blazing eyes. Is that true, Batman? Do you know what the Joker's nightmare is? Batman didn't answer, so the psychiatrist turned to him. Do you? But Batman was gone. Swallowed by the shadows, cloaked by the darkness, protected by the concealing mask of night. Bartholomew shook his head again as he peered down the dimly lit basement corridor. He turned back to the man in the cell. How can he know what you dream? The psychiatrist asked. The Joker leaned up against the viewing window and dropped his voice to a whisper. Because he dreams it too. He dreams it too. Outside, within the beckoning shadows of Arkham's stone walls, Batman returned to the night, haunted by the sound of that mad laughter, driven by a dream only two men know. And so, that's the end of Masks. But I think we can fit one more in. What do you think? We might run a tiny bit late, but not much. This one is called Daddy's Girl. And it is from Robin. Robin. Oh, this one is from Robin's casebook. It was a solo night job. Bruce had gone to Washington to deliver a lecture on the economic affairs at a business convention and had asked me to stay here in Gotham. My job was nailing the Tomcat, a very sharp jewel thief who was hitting all the wealthy West Side mansions in the hours past midnight. One each night, cleaning them all out. There were a lot of very angry Gotham citizens demanding his arrest, but the police had never been able to catch sight of the Tomcat, let alone arrest him. Nabbing the fellow with Batman gone was my responsibility. As you know, a prowling cat tends to follow a prescribed route, Batman had reminded me. So all we have to do in order to figure out where our Tomcat will prowl next is counter-triangulate the area of his previous robberies, feed in the fixed coordinates of his probable strike area, and we'll have it narrowed down to a one-block target. When Batman pulls off stuff like this, it reminds me of Sherlock Holmes. But old Sherlock had never had a bat computer to work with. Ours produced a one-block area readout mansion by mansion, so all we had to do was set up a stakeout in that area and wait for the Tomcat to show up.
Up to you to nail this tomcat's tail to the fence,
Batman told me. Don't worry, I'll make him yowl, I promised. And so here I was on my solo night job. I'd come into the Batmobile, but had sent it back to the Batcave. I didn't want our Catman to spot it in the area. The directional computer took it back without any problem, like sending a good horse home to the stable. And now I was on the hunt, hugging the tree shadows along Forest Avenue, using infra-bat scope to scan the buildings for possible tomcat activity. A full spring moon was riding above Gotham City, painting rooftops and sidewalks with a glimmering silver. A lovely night for the action. I was glad to be out here under the sky on a hunt instead of being stuck in Washington the way Batman was. Despite all the years of crook catching, the thrill of hunt has never diminished. On a night like this, my blood raced and my whole body was on alert, every muscle tense, ready for combat. For a true crime fighter, what else was there to live for? That was when I saw him, the tomcat, clawing his way up a vine toward the roof of a mansion, big Victorian structure set well back from the street and almost buried in trees. And I muttered, "Gotcha," heading for the mansion's black iron fence. I was up and over, sprinting for the tall side of the house, rising ahead of me like a white iceberg under the moon. I moved over the grass, shadow quick, without sound, and he had no idea I was coming for him. I scrambled up to the roof, reaching it just in time to spot Mr. Tomcat crouched next to the skylight, trying to jimmy the lock with a crowbar. He was a tall string bean of a guy, all in black, sporting a black stovepipe hat and black leather gloves. He had a sharp beaked profile, reminding me of the Penguin. Apparently he figured nobody was home, since he sure wasn't trying to be subtle about getting inside. I paddled across the roof, smiling, sure of the game. Bagging this particular feline was going to be a cinch. But I was wrong. I was just 2 feet away from him. He whipped up his head, let out a venomous cat hiss, and lunged at me with a heavy crowbar, which wouldn't have given me any trouble if my right foot hadn't snagged on a loose shingle, throwing me off balance. The tomcat's crowbar slammed into me across the chest. I went crashing headfirst through the glass skylight. I felt myself falling through space, then a big crash and darkness. Pitch black darkness. What I saw next was a delicate white face floating above me, the face of a beautiful young woman with round, dark, startled eyes like the eyes of a fawn in the forest.
"Hello,"
she said in a voice as soft as her eyes.
"Does your body flesh hurt?"
An odd question. My body flesh? Things were coming into focus around me. I was in a large bedroom, her bedroom most likely, since it was all pink and flouncy, and the young lady was also in pink, the kind of wide-skirted, lacy Victorian dress she'd wear to a costume ball. I tried to sit up. "Ah!" I groaned, clutching at my side. "It does hurt." Which is when I realized I was wearing white silk pajamas. My cape and mask and clothes were gone. This was serious, since no one in Gotham City was ever supposed to see Robin without his mask. Batman was going to be plenty sore at me for this.
Who are you?"
I asked the girl.
"Sue Ellen,"
she said softly. Sue Ellen who? She flushed.
"I don't have a last name. Sometimes I don't even feel like a real person. I mean, real people have last names, and Father has never told me what mine is."
"It would be the same as his," I pointed out.
"Oh, but I don't know that either. I just call him Father."
She blinked at me.
"What's your name?"
I'm not authorized to reveal my true identity." Her eyes were wide.
"Are you with the FBI?"
"No, but I do fight crime."
"Is that why you were wearing a mask?"
She had long blonde hair framing the oval of her face. The moonlight from the window made it shine like a halo. I adjusted the pillow, sitting up straight. "Haven't you seen my picture in the papers?"
"Oh, I don't ever see newspapers or magazines either. Father won't allow them in the house."
She'd caught me in full costume, and Robin had been on TV plenty of times. "You must have seen me on television?"
"We don't have a television here."
Then she smiled for the first time, and she was radiant. I was stunned by her pale beauty. This surreal conversation was getting nowhere. It was time to end it. "I must leave now," I told her. How long have I been here?"
"About 10 hours, but you can't leave. Nobody ever leaves this house but Father, and he's away now. Far, far away."
"No, really, I must go. Just get me my clothes I had on when you found me." She shook her head.
"No, I want you to stay here with me. You're the first flesh person I've ever known, except for Father."
"Look, Sue Ellen," I said, sliding my legs over the edge of the bed. I really appreciate what you've done for me, fixed up my rib and all, but I have to leave immediately. I stood up, even if I have to walk out of here in a pair of silk pajamas.
Gork will stop you. I told him that you should stay.
She snapped her fingers. A huge 7-footer appeared in the bedroom door. He had a flat gray face and eyes without pupils and wore a seamless gray uniform. He looked strong, but I was sure I could handle him. Well, look, I'll have to clobber your big pal if he gets in my way, I told the girl. Tell him to move back from that door.
Gork is my friend. He does what I ask. He won't allow you to leave.
I was in no mood to argue the point. I just lowered my head and I charged. Hitting him was like slamming into a brick wall, and trying to punch him was hopeless. My blows had no effect. Then Gork put his hands on me like 2 steel meat hooks.
Oh, don't hurt him, Gork, said Sue Ellen. Just put him back in the bed.
And the big lug did that. He tucked me in like a 3-year-old, all without changing expression.
You can go now, Gork,
the girl said. He shambled out of the room. He's not human, is he?
Of course not. No one in this house is human except for me and Father when he's home.
What is Gork?
Mostly he's made of metal, like R. When I was very young, Father got interested in the science of robotics. He's quite brilliant and has many interests. He began to experiment with metal people, robots. That's what Gork is, and he's identical to a dozen others that Father had constructed to take care of me. But Gork is the only one I really like.
She moved very close, leaning over the bed.
May I touch your face?
Sure, I guess so. She reached out with tentative fingers to explore the planes of my face.
It's warm, just like mine. The robots have cold faces like wet fish.
She gave me one of her radiant smiles.
I'm a flesh person, too, just like you are.
This whole situation was totally bizarre. I couldn't figure it out. I need to talk to a friend, I told her. Could I use your phone?
Oh, we don't have any phones here. Father says they just distract me, that I use them to try to call other flesh people.
She giggled.
But that's silly because I don't know anyone but you, and you're right here. I don't have to call you.
I looked at her intently. Is it true that I'm the first boy you've met?
I said so, and I never lie.
Where did you go to school?
Here, in this house. The robots taught me.
You mean you've never been to an outside school?
I've never been in outside anything. I've just been here, in Father's house, for my whole life.
I was shocked. Are you saying your father has kept you a prisoner?
Prisoner?
She frowned at the word.
No, I'm not a prisoner. I'm Daddy's girl. This is where he wants me to be, where he brought me as a tiny baby after Mother and Father quit living together.
What happened to your mother?
I don't know. I never saw her again. Anyhow, after she left, Father told me I was too precious to have the world pollute me. He said he'd keep me here always safe from the harshness of the world, that he didn't want me tarnished. Father uses words like that all the time. He's a lot smarter than me.
Did you ever get to play with other children?
Oh, no, never. Father had robot children made for me to play with. I never saw any real ones. I just grew up here with the robots.
She brightened.
I've even learned to make robots myself. I'm very good at it, too.
Who is your father? I was angry at what the man had done to his daughter. Tell me who he is.
I've told you. I don't know his name. He's just Father.
I walked over to her dresser. You must have a picture of him, a photo. I want to see his face.
Oh, he doesn't like pictures, and there aren't any.
What does he do for a living? How does he earn the money for all this?
He works in a circus, as a clown. I guess he always has. That's where he is right now, with a circus way off in Washington. You know, the D.C. place?
Yes, that's where my friend is now, the one I need to contact.
Then
maybe
Father will see your friend there.
something was very wrong. I sensed a rushing chill inside of me, a prickly feeling that this crazy father of hers was a threat to Batman. I had no evidence to back it up, just a gut hunch, but it was strong. I had to find out what's happening in Washington. When you found me, I said urgently to Sue Ellen, after I'd fallen through the skylight, I was wearing a wrist chron. She looked confused. Like a watch, I said. Where is it?
The robots took it away with your other clothing.
I need it, Sue Ellen. Badly.
All right, I'll have Gork fetch it.
And she did. The big gray robot handed it to me, then shambled out again. The Batcron was a communication device featuring a mini TV. I punched in the coordinates, and the face of a worried-looking newscaster flashed to life on the tiny screen. He was speaking with gravity. And the shocking attempt of the president's life was averted by Gotham City's Caped Crusader in a daring action when Batman suddenly appeared at the circus, throwing himself directly in the path of the killer clown and managing to wrest a lethal dart weapon from his grasp. Had just one of the deadly venom-coated darts struck the president, he would have died instantly. In the subsequent melee, the killer escaped from the circus tent, but Batman was unhurt. I switched it off. Sue Ellen and I were staring at each other.
That clown on the newscast. They only showed him from the back, but I'm sure it's Father.
Then your father attempted to assassinate the President of the United States.
I'm sorry,
murmured Sue Ellen softly, head down.
That's very wrong, isn't it?
Very.
I wonder why he'd do a thing like that. But then he's not a very nice man. I've tried to love him, and I just can't. Gork has been much kinder to me than Father.
I was beginning to suspect a terrible truth about Sue Ellen's father, but I needed to have her verify it. Describe him to me. What does your father look like?
If you mean his features, I'm not sure. I mean, not really. He's always in his clown makeup. I've never seen him without it.
Uh-huh. And what about his hair? What color is it? My voice was intense.
It's green, an ugly green color, and he always wears red on his lips.
I was right. Sue Ellen's father was our old enemy, the clown prince of crime himself.
Surprise,
an oily voice said from the doorway. I looked up, and he was there, with his demonic smile distorting that dead white face, the face of total evil. Joker. I glared at him. Sue Ellen drew back as if from a snake. He ignored her, his eyes blazing into mine.
Ah, it's Dick Grayson, he said. A known friend to Batman and Robin.
And proud of it, I said tightly.
But it seems your friend has foiled me again. I intend to make him pay for what he did to me in Washington.
We were face to face at the bed. His breath was foul like rotten meat. You're big at making empty threats, Joker, I told him. But when the chips are down, you always lose. Batman and Robin have defeated you time and again, and one of these days, they'll put you permanently out of business.
Never! My brain far surpasses the range of normal men.
Well, at least we both agree on that. You're anything but normal. During this entire exchange, from the moment her father appeared in the room, Sue Ellen had been silent, intent on the play of words between us. Now she spoke firmly, her small chin raised in defiance.
Father, you're being very unkind. This is my first flesh friend, and I don't like the mean way you've been talking to him. I think you should apologize.
Apologize?
I'll apologize to no friend of Batman's. The bat-eared fool has been a plague in my life, continually thwarting my plans. If you have acted as wickedly in the past as you acted in Washington, declared the girl, then your plans should have been thwarted, Father.
The clown glared at her.
What do you know of good and evil, of profit and gain, of besting authority, of the sheer power and joy in being a master of crime? I know it's nothing to be proud of, she snapped. From what I've learned here today, I would say you belong in jail, Father. If Batman were here, you'd see how he'd deal with your father.
Yes, he'd put him out of action fast enough, I told Sue Ellen.
Oh, he'll be here, smiled the Joker. I will see to that. I'll lead him to this very house. There'll be a present waiting for him. A present from the Joker to the Batman.
What do you mean? I demanded.
I don't know what odd twisted face brought you to this house, Dick Grayson, but shall make good use of you. Oh, yes. When Batman arrives, I shall summon him personally, and he shall find his little society friend Dick Grayson waiting for him with a cut throat.
He held up a long-bladed knife. Light trembled along the razored edge.
And you, dear daughter, he said, turning to Sue Ellen, shall slice his throat neatly from ear to ear, and we shall leave him for his bat friend to find.
His eyes glowed hotly.
It will be simply delicious, watching Batman's shock when he encounters Grayson's corpse. How utterly horrible, exclaimed Sue Ellen. You're a monster. You could never make me do such...
Her voice faltered. The Joker was standing above her, staring into her eyes. The tone of his voice was soft and compelling.
You shall obey your father in all things. You will do exactly as I command. You are Daddy's girl, Daddy's girl, Daddy's girl.
His eyes burned like glowing coals in the dead white of his face.
I am Daddy's girl,
Sue Ellen murmured in a drugged voice. Her hands fell to her sides. She was blank-eyed and rigid, a victim of his dark powers. That's when I jumped in, driving my right fist into the white of that grinning face, but before I could deliver a second blow, I was jerked violently backwards. Two gray-skinned house robots held my arms in a literal grip of steel. I was helpless.
Don't try to fight them, said the clown. They are far more powerful than any human.
He reached into his striped coat and produced a small gel capsule.
When she uses a knife on you, you'll never feel a thing.
And he snapped the capsule in two under my nose. A wave of sleeping gas spun me into blackness. The end. Okay, it's not the end, but it is the top of the hour, so a couple more minutes and we'll get this wrapped up, eh? From Batman's casebook. I had just returned from Washington, more enraged than ever at the Joker. His vicious attempt at the president's life was yet another act of total madness. I was grimly determined to run him into the ground for Gotham City. When no word from Robin awaited me upon my return, I was concerned as to his whereabouts. Cruising the west side in the Batmobile, I scanned each section of the street. I found no sign of him. Where could Robin be? Then abruptly the Joker's grinning face appeared directly ahead. The image was being beamed down from the sky above me from the Joker's clown copter. I could see him at the controls as he hovered over me with his mocking devil's smile. He fired a burst from his laser nose cannon, blasting apart the road, and I veered sharply left to avoid a smoking crater. More work for the street department. It was a short chase. The Joker brought me his machine down on the roof of an old Victorian mansion on Forest Avenue, and I followed him through an open roof door. The house was silent and lightless. The clown prince of crime was hiding somewhere inside this gloomy building, and I was determined to find him. The silence seemed to deepen as I moved through the darkness, hunting from room to room, gliding down the main staircase. I padded softly along a dimly lit hallway toward an open door just ahead. This was the main ballroom, immense and ornate, moonlight tinting its polished oak floor. Then I gasped. Someone was spread-eagled on a table in the middle of a cavernous chamber. I moved closer and fell back in agonized shock. It was Robin, unmasked, dressed in white silk pajamas, spattered with blood. His head was twisted at a sharp angle, and his throat had been cut from ear to ear. A searing white cone of light stabbed suddenly down from the ceiling. An amplified wave of ghoulish laughter crashed through the room. The Joker's laughter, taunting, demonic, triumphant.
Hee ho ha ha ha, Batman. He's dead. Your meddlesome little friend Dick Grayson is no more.
Damn you, Joker. I'll tear you apart for this. In red rage, fists doubled, I swung around, raking the darkness for a glimpse of him. My fingers itched to close on his windpipe. I wanted to choke the life out of his foul body, to see his eyes bug, his tongue protrude from his swollen red lips. No use looking for me, Batman. I'm in my second-floor study, enjoying this splendid show on my monitor screen. I looked up. A shielded scanner rotated with my movements, providing the Joker with his image of my agony. Then the tall entrance door to the ballroom banged shut like an exploding cannon. There's no way out for you, the Joker informed me. The door is steel-ribbed, the walls are rock solid. What's your game, Joker? Simple. I intend to leave you with your dead friend. No food, no water, just you and a slowly rotting corpse. I shall savor your death, Batman. Indeed I shall. And again the cackle of demonic laughter from the wall speakers. I sprinted for the door, throwing my full weight against it, but the door held fast. The Joker was right. I was trapped like a fly in a web. I slumped against the door, the full horror of Robin's death assaulting me. Tears ran down my cheeks behind the bat cowl, and I slammed the wall in pain frustration. Indeed, it seemed the Joker would have a good show. And then, just beyond the viewing range of the scan unit, from the deep corner shadow, I saw a small white hand beckoning to me. I didn't want to alert the Joker, so I put on an act he was hoping for. I groaned aloud. I turned in hopeless circles, then staggered to the corner to beat both fists against the wall. And there a young woman with frightened eyes was crouched. Looking up at me, her words tumbled out in a desperate whisper.
Your friend is alive. The figure on the table is a robot. To fool Father. He thought I was hypnotized, but I wasn't. I just pretended. Gork helped me. He's a robot, too. We bottled the machine boy after Dick Grayson. I made the face myself.
Relief that Robin was still alive flooded through me. I leaned close to the girl. Who are you?
I'm Sue Ellen, the daughter of the person you call the Joker. He tried to force me to kill your friend, but I could never do that. I love him.
Where have you hidden him?
Below, in the basement. He's still unconscious from Father's sleeping gas, but the two of you can get away through a secret passage leading to the street.
But how do I get out of this room?
Behind you, there's a trap door in the floor. It was bolted shut from below, but I got it open. Where are you, Batman?
Joker's taunting voice boomed from the speakers.
Come, this will never do.
The tone became harsh.
Step back in the light, or before it's send down some of my metallic friends to drag you out of that corner. They won't be gentle about it. Now do as I say.
Sue Ellen was gesturing to me. Her voice was urgent.
Quickly, he'll send the robots if we don't hurry.
And she tugged open the trapdoor, revealing a square of pale yellow light from the basement below us. A twist of sagging wooden stairs led downward.
This way,
whispered the girl.
Follow me.
I slipped through the trapdoor, closing it behind me, and I followed her rapidly down the stairs. From Robin's casebook. I woke up, blinking, acrid powder fumes in my nostrils. Batman was leaning over me. He'd used a reviver vial from his utility belt to bring me around.
You okay?
Yeah, a little dizzy is all. I gripped his arm. How'd you get here, Batman? Where's Sue Ellen?
The girl stepped forward, taking my hand. Her fingers felt warm and strong.
Here I am.
She was smiling, my personal angel. I don't understand. I thought the Joker had...
Never mind what you thought,
said Batman. By now the Joker knows that his daughter has tricked him. He'll be sending down his killer robots. He reached out a gloved hand. On your feet. We need to get out of here. I stood up, a bit shaky, but otherwise I was fine. And then wham! The basement door crashed open. Sue Ellen screamed, "They're here!" A half-dozen giant gray-faced robots were pouring down through the door straight at us.
Maybe this will slow them down,
shouted Batman, tossing a bat pellet at the advancing tin men. They staggered back as a pellet exploded in the yellow fire.
This way,
cried Sue Ellen, taking the lead down a narrow rock-walled passageway. It was damp and cobwebby and smelled of dead rats. The tunnel was as black as the Joker's soul. We kept running full tilt behind the girl. Then we could make out a faint glow at the far end.
That's the street light from the corner of Forest and Troost,
Sue Ellen informed us.
You're almost out.
But almost wasn't good enough. The robots were gaining fast. In another couple of seconds they'd catch us for sure. Do something, Batman, I pleaded, or we're goners. The Cape Crusader spun around and flipped out another belt vial. Whoom! The whole roof caved in behind us, trapping the robots in rock and mud. Then we were at the tunnel exit. Sue Ellen stepped back.
Go, quickly.
I hesitated. But we're taking you with us, Sue Ellen.
No, you're not,
rasped an oily voice, and the Joker leaped towards us, gleaming .357 Magnum in his gloved hand. Batman didn't say a word. It was time for action, not talk. He ducked under the Joker's gun arm to deliver a smashing blow to the clown's pointed chin. The Joker fell back, dropping the Magnum. Then he pressed a button on his coat, and the clown copter, blades whirling, dropped to the pavement between us like a giant cat. Instantly, the Joker hopped to the controls, roaring the chopper skyward. Its whip sawed away over the trees. My voice was intense. Can we catch him in the Batcopter?
Afraid not,
sighed Batman.
Left it on the roof. No doubt our green-haired friend disabled it. He wouldn't risk a pursuit.
We turned toward the girl. She was crouching inside the tunnel, peering out at us from the darkness.
Come on, Sue Ellen, time to go.
She shook her head.
No, I can't go.
I moved quickly to her. Why not? You've said that you love me.
I do. I really, truly do. But...
I stopped her words with my lips.
A kiss,
she gasped in delight.
I've never had one of those before.
Sue Ellen, I want you with me, I told her, to share my life. I've never met a girl like you. I want to marry you. Tears welled in her eyes.
Oh, that sounds so wonderful. But it can't ever happen because...
Because why? She stepped forward to the light for the street.
Because I'm dying.
Sue Ellen was pale. Her hands trembled. A crimson thread of blood ran from the corner of her mouth.
Father made certain I'd never be able to go out into the world. He gave me injections. So long as I stayed indoors in the house, I was all right. But those injections changed the chemistry of my body. I can't survive on the outside. My coming out now set off a kind of chain reaction inside my body, and nothing can save me, not even your love.
But there must be an antidote.
No. Too late.
She was moaning out the words.
Father was brilliant. He wanted to make sure I'd always be Daddy's girl.
She reached out slowly to clasp my hands. Her fingers were already turning cold.
Goodbye, Dick Grayson. Goodbye, my love.
And she was gone. I lowered her body to the ground. Batman gripped my shoulder.
Dick, I'm sorry.
I'd lost the sweetest girl I'd ever known. I loved her very much, and I always will.